Once upon a time, not too far from here, there was a dog. Not just any dog, but a scruffy, sandy-colored stray. He wasn't very big, but he had a heart as big as the sky. Everyone called him Shadow because he was always sneaking around, quiet as a shadow. Shadow lived near a big, busy hospital. The hospital was a place where people went to get better. Doctors and nurses hurried around, helping patients with smiles on their faces. They were very kind and always did their best. Shadow wasn't a patient, but he felt like he belonged there. He often watched the people coming and going, his tail giving a little thump against the ground. He liked the smells of the place, clean smells mixed with the yummy scent of food from the cafeteria. He was especially fond of a nurse named Sarah. She always had a kind word and sometimes even a little treat for him. Shadow knew deep down that the hospital was a good place, a safe place. And he would soon show everyone just how much he understood that. The hospital itself was a flurry of activity. Doctors in their white coats hurried down the hallways, their stethoscopes bouncing. Nurses bustled from room to room, checking on patients and offering comforting words. The air hummed with the sounds of beeping machines, quiet conversations, and the occasional burst of laughter. Sarah, the nurse Shadow liked so much, was one of the busiest. She had bright, kind eyes and a gentle smile that could make anyone feel better. She always took the time to listen to her patients, holding their hands and offering words of encouragement. She believed that a little bit of kindness could go a long way in helping someone heal. The hospital was more than just a building, it was a place of hope, healing, and compassion. It was a place where people came to find comfort and strength and where dedicated professionals worked tirelessly to make a difference in their lives. Little did they know a small, scruffy dog was about to become a part of their story in a very big way. Every day, Shadow had his own little routine. He would wake up with the sun, stretch his legs, and trot over to the hospital. Sometimes he'd find a discarded crust of bread or a dropped French fry near the back entrance, a tasty treasure. He learned which delivery trucks brought the best-smelling food. He also made friends with some of the patients who were able to sit outside. He wagged his tail and let them pet him, offering a furry, comforting presence. An old man with a bad cough would often share his crackers, and a little girl with a broken arm would read him stories. Shadow loved the attention and the feeling of being helpful. He wasn't allowed inside the hospital, of course, but he made the most of his time outside. He was like a furry little guardian watching over the people. One sunny morning, everything was different. Instead of trotting happily toward the hospital, Shadow looked determined. He was dragging something behind him, something big and black. It was a large garbage bag, the kind you might use to clean up leaves in your yard. The bag was heavy and Shadow struggled to pull it along. He strained and tugged, his little legs working hard. He kept stopping to rest, panting heavily, but he never gave up. He seemed to know exactly where he was going, the entrance of the hospital. People noticed him, of course. They stopped and stared, wondering what on earth he was doing. Some were amused, some were concerned, and some were even a little frightened. A big, black garbage bag being dragged by a stray dog? It was certainly an unusual sight. Nobody knew what was inside, and that made them nervous. What if it was something dangerous? What if? Their imaginations started to run wild. Little did they know the truth was far more surprising than anything they could have imagined. The crowd grew larger as Shadow got closer to the entrance. People whispered to each other, their faces etched with worry and curiosity. "What's in the bag?" one woman asked, clutching her purse tightly. "Maybe it's just trash," a man replied, but his voice lacked conviction. Some people started to back away, afraid of what might happen. A security guard approached cautiously, ready to intervene if necessary. He didn't want to scare the dog, but he also had to protect the people entering and leaving the hospital. He radioed for backup just in case. The tension in the air was thick enough to cut with a knife. Everyone was on edge, their eyes glued to Shadow and the mysterious black bag. Even the sounds of the busy hospital seemed to fade away, replaced by a nervous silence. It was like something out of a movie, a moment frozen in time. All eyes were on the little stray dog and the secret he was dragging towards them. What would happen next? Just as the security guard was about to step forward, Sarah emerged from the hospital entrance. She had heard the commotion and came to see what was happening. When she saw Shadow, she recognized him immediately. Unlike the others, Sarah wasn't afraid. She had always felt a connection with the little stray. She trusted him even though she didn't know why he was dragging a garbage bag. She pushed her way through the crowd, her eyes fixed on Shadow. "It's okay," she said softly, her voice cutting through the tension. "I know this dog. He wouldn't hurt anyone." She approached Shadow slowly, speaking to him in a gentle, reassuring tone. "Hey there, Shadow. What have you got there, boy?" The crowd watched in stunned silence as Sarah knelt down beside Shadow, ignoring the nervous whispers and worried glances. She knew that whatever was in that bag, Shadow had brought it here for a reason. And she was determined to find out what that reason was. She reached out a hand not to grab the bag, but to gently stroke Shadow's head. "It's okay," she repeated. "I'm here to help." Shadow seemed to relax a little under Sarah's gentle touch. He looked up at her with his big, brown eyes, his tail giving a small, hesitant wag. He nudged the garbage bag closer to her with his nose, then whimpered softly, a low, pleading sound that tugged at Sarah's heart. It was as if he was saying, "Please, help. I don't know what else to do." He looked exhausted, his body trembling slightly from the effort of dragging the heavy bag. He trusted Sarah, she could see it in his eyes. He knew she would understand even if no one else did. The crowd held its breath, watching Sarah and Shadow. The security guard lowered his hand from his radio, waiting to see what would happen next. Even the birds seemed to stop singing, as if sensing the importance of the moment. The whole world seemed to be holding its breath, waiting for Sarah to uncover the mystery of the black garbage bag. What was inside? And why had Shadow brought it here? The answers were just moments away. Carefully, Sarah reached for the top of the garbage bag. Her heart was pounding in her chest. She didn't know what to expect, but she knew she had to be brave, for Shadow's sake. With a deep breath, she untied the knot and slowly peeled back the top of the bag. A gasp rippled through the crowd. The security guard's jaw dropped. Even Sarah felt a wave of shock wash over her. Inside the bag, nestled amongst some old rags, were 5 tiny puppies. They were newborn, their eyes still closed, and they were shivering with cold. The puppies were a mix of colors, brown, black, and white, and they were all huddled together for warmth. They were so small and helpless, and it was clear that they needed help urgently. The black garbage bag, which had seemed so ominous just moments before, was now revealed to be a makeshift cradle, a desperate attempt to protect these vulnerable little creatures. Everyone froze, stunned by the unexpected sight. The reason for Shadow's actions was now heartbreakingly clear. The shock quickly turned to action. Sarah, without hesitation, carefully scooped up the puppies, one by one, cradling them gently in her arms. "Quick," she said to the nearest nurse, "we need blankets and warm milk." The other nurses sprang into action, rushing inside to gather supplies. Someone brought a box lined with soft towels. Another nurse heated up some milk in a bottle. The security guard, forgetting his earlier apprehension, helped to clear a space for Sarah and the puppies. Even the people who had been afraid just moments before were now offering assistance. They brought extra blankets, offered comforting words, and simply stood by, wanting to help in any way they could. The atmosphere had completely changed. The fear and suspicion were gone, replaced by a shared sense of compassion and a determination to help these tiny, vulnerable creatures. Shadow, watching from a safe distance, wagged his tail weakly as if saying, "Thank you." He knew he had done the right thing. He had brought them to the right place. But how did Shadow know to bring the puppies to the hospital? The answer lay in what Shadow had seen the day before. He had been scavenging near a dumpster behind a grocery store when he heard tiny whimpers coming from inside. He cautiously peeked inside and discovered the puppies, abandoned and alone, shivering in the cold. His first instinct was to find their mother, but she was nowhere to be seen. He stayed with them for hours, trying to keep them warm with his own body, but he knew it wasn't enough. The puppies needed more help than he could provide. Then he remembered the hospital. He had seen people being cared for there, people being helped and healed. He knew somehow that the hospital was a place where those in need could find refuge. And so, with a strength he didn't know he possessed, he had dragged the heavy garbage bag all the way to the hospital, hoping that someone would help the tiny creatures inside. He knew the hospital would be a safe place. It was the only option he could think of. Inside the hospital, the staff worked tirelessly to care for the puppies. They gently cleaned them, fed them warm milk from tiny bottles, and wrapped them in soft blankets. The puppies, feeling the warmth and comfort, began to settle down, their tiny whimpers turning into soft snores. Sarah stayed with them, watching over them and making sure they were comfortable. She felt a surge of love for these helpless little creatures and for the brave dog who had brought them to safety. She knew that they still had a long way to go, but they were finally in a safe and loving environment. The hospital became a temporary nursery filled with the sounds of tiny puppies and the gentle voices of the nurses who cared for them. Everyone pitched in, taking turns feeding, cleaning, and cuddling the puppies. It was a team effort, a testament to the power of compassion and the willingness to help those in need. Shadow, given a warm bed and plenty of food, finally rested, knowing that his little friends were in good hands. As the days went by, the puppies grew stronger and more playful. Sarah, who had become their de facto mother, decided it was time to give them names. She wanted names that were special, names that reflected their resilience and the hope they had brought to the hospital. She looked up at the night sky, filled with twinkling stars, and an idea sparked in her mind. "I'll name them after stars," she declared. And so, the puppies were given celestial names: Luna, the smallest and most delicate, named after the moon; Comet, the fastest and most energetic, named after the shooting star; Orion, the bravest and most curious, named after the mighty hunter constellation; Stella, the sweetest and most gentle, named after the Latin word for star; and finally, Nova, the brightest and most radiant, named after the exploding star. The names fit them perfectly, and soon everyone at the hospital was calling them by their new names. The puppies, oblivious to their newfound fame, continued to play and grow, bringing joy and laughter to everyone they met. The hospital, once a place of worry and illness, was now filled with the sounds of happy puppies, a testament to the healing power of love and compassion. The story of Shadow and the puppies quickly spread throughout the town. People were touched by Shadow's bravery and Sarah's kindness. News reporters came to the hospital to interview them and take pictures of the adorable puppies. Soon, the story was all over the news, on television, and in the newspapers. People from all over the country were captivated by the tale of the stray dog who had saved 5 little lives. They sent cards, letters, and gifts to the hospital for Shadow and the puppies. The hospital was flooded with donations of food, blankets, and toys. Everyone wanted to see Shadow, the hero dog. People lined up outside the hospital, hoping to catch a glimpse of him and the puppies. Shadow, though a little overwhelmed by all the attention, seemed to enjoy the extra pats and treats. He wagged his tail happily, basking in the love and appreciation. He had become a local celebrity, a symbol of hope and compassion in a world that often seemed dark and uncertain. He even got his picture on the local newspaper. He was a star. With so much attention on the puppies, the hospital staff knew they needed to find them loving, permanent homes. They contacted a local animal shelter, a place dedicated to finding forever homes for animals in need. The shelter was thrilled to help. The shelter staff came to the hospital and examined the puppies, declaring them healthy and ready for adoption in a few weeks. They promised to help find the perfect families for each of the little stars. The news that the puppies were going up for adoption spread even faster than the story of their rescue. Hundreds of people applied to adopt them, eager to give them a loving home. The shelter staff carefully reviewed each application, looking for families who were responsible, caring, and able to provide the puppies with the love and attention they deserved. It was a difficult decision, but they were determined to find the best possible homes for Luna, Comet, Orion, Stella, and Nova. The puppies were going to have great lives. Life changed for Shadow, too. He was no longer just a stray dog lurking around the hospital. He was a hero, a celebrity, and most importantly, he was loved. People brought him treats, toys, and lots of attention. He had a warm bed in the hospital lobby and plenty of food to eat. But Sarah noticed that Shadow still seemed a little lonely. He missed the puppies and he missed having a place to truly call home. She realized that Shadow needed more than just fame and attention, he needed a family. After thinking long and hard, Sarah made a decision. She couldn't imagine her life without Shadow. He had brought so much joy and hope to the hospital, and she had grown to love him dearly. She decided to adopt him, to give him a forever home where he would be safe, loved, and cherished. She filled out the adoption papers and officially became Shadow's owner. He was finally home. He was a hero, and now he had a home with his own hero. The weeks flew by, and soon it was time for the puppies to go to their new homes. One by one, the families arrived at the hospital, their faces beaming with excitement. Luna went to a family with 2 young children who promised to read her stories every night. Comet went to a family with a big backyard where he could run and play to his heart's content. Orion went to a young couple who loved to hike and explore, and they couldn't wait to take him on adventures. Stella went to an elderly woman who needed a companion, and Stella quickly became her best friend. And Nova went to a family who already had another dog, and the 2 dogs became instant playmates. Sarah made sure to take pictures of each puppy with their new family, and she promised to keep in touch. It was bittersweet saying goodbye, but she knew that the puppies were going to wonderful homes where they would be loved and cared for. They were ready for their new lives. Sarah kept her promise to stay in touch with the families who adopted the puppies. She would visit them regularly, bringing Shadow along for playdates. It was heartwarming to see the puppies thriving in their new homes, loved and cherished by their families. Luna was now a bookworm curled up with her little owners, listening intently to their stories. Comet was a champion frisbee player, running and leaping with boundless energy in his big backyard. Orion was a seasoned explorer, hiking trails with his adventurous couple, his tail wagging with excitement. Stella was a comforting presence for her elderly owner, always there to offer a gentle nudge and a listening ear. And Nova was a social butterfly, playing happily with his canine companion. Their days filled with joyful barks and playful wrestling. Shadow loved seeing the puppies happy and healthy. He knew he had done the right thing, and he was proud of the little stars he had saved. He was happy to see them thriving. He had helped them find their homes. Even though the puppies were in their new homes, Shadow never forgot them. He would often sit by the window looking out at the world, perhaps remembering the day he found them abandoned and alone. Sarah knew he missed them, but she also knew that he was happy and content in his new home. Sometimes Sarah would drive Shadow to visit the families who had adopted the puppies. Shadow would wag his tail excitedly as they approached each house, knowing that he was about to see his little friends. The puppies would come running to greet him, showering him with kisses and playful nips. It was clear that Shadow was a hero in their eyes, the dog who had saved their lives and given them a chance at a happy future. He was so happy to see them. The puppies were happy to see him. He was their hero. The story of Shadow and the puppies is a reminder that even the smallest and most vulnerable creatures can have a big impact on the world. It shows us the importance of kindness, compassion, and helping those in need, whether they are human or animal. It teaches us that even a stray dog can be a hero and that a little bit of love can go a long way. It's a story about second chances, about finding hope in unexpected places, and about the power of community. It's a story that reminds us to be kind to everyone we meet, because you never know what someone is going through or what they are capable of. It shows us that even the smallest act of kindness can make a big difference in someone's life. It also shows us how animals can be so incredibly intelligent and compassionate. They deserve our love and respect. Shadow certainly earned it. He was a good boy. Now, years later, Shadow is an old dog, but his heart is still as big as the sky. He spends his days napping in sunny spots in Sarah's backyard, playing fetch with her in the park, and greeting visitors with a wagging tail. He still visits the hospital from time to time, bringing smiles to the faces of the patients and staff. He is no longer a stray, but a beloved member of the community, a testament to the power of kindness and compassion. He is a reminder that even the smallest among us can make a big difference in the world. And every night, as Sarah tucks him into his warm bed, Shadow looks up at the stars, remembering the puppies he saved, the little stars he brought into the world. He knows that they are all happy and loved, and that makes his heart full. He drifts off to sleep, dreaming of chasing squirrels, playing with puppies, and being loved by Sarah. He was a good boy. And he had a good life. And so, as the day ends and the stars begin to twinkle in the night sky, Shadow curls up in his cozy bed, a soft blanket tucked around him. Sarah gently strokes his fur, whispering, "Good night, my hero." He closes his eyes, a contented sigh escaping his lips. He is safe, loved, and warm. In his dreams, he runs through fields of green grass, chasing butterflies and playing with Luna, Comet, Orion, Stella, and Nova. He sees their happy faces, hears their joyful barks, and feels their love surrounding him. He dreams of stars, bright and shining, just like the puppies he saved. He dreams of kindness, compassion, and the power of helping others. He dreams of a world where every animal has a loving home and a warm bed to sleep in. And as he sleeps, he knows that he made a difference in that world. He was a good boy. He was a hero. And he was loved. He was their shadow, and they were his stars.